Renan Barao, former UFC Bantamweight champion and owner of one of the longest winning streaks in MMA history. By 2014, Barao was finally receiving recognition as a future legend of the sport, only to suffer a downfall so spectacular he'd be out of the UFC altogether within 5 years. How did one of the pound-for-pound best fighters in the world end up on the scrap heap so quickly? Welcome to the INC, and today we ask, what happened to Renan Barao? The Renan Barao story dates back to April 14, 2005 for the Heat FC promotion in Brazil. Named after a character in a Brazilian soap opera, Renan Barao entered MMA with all the tools to be a star. Training at the fabled Nova União alongside Jose Aldo and receiving a jiu-jitsu black belt under André Pederneiras, Barao would make his debut on that card against 1-0 João Paulo Rodrigues, losing a one-sided match by unanimous decision. For nearly a decade, it would be the only blemish on his MMA record. For the next 5 years, Barao began a reign of terror on the Brazilian regional scene, building a 21-fight winning streak and in some cases fighting 2 to 3 times in a single night. While questions were raised over the quality of Barao's competition, the Brazilian was praised for his well-rounded skill set. The run of form soon caught the eye of the WEC, where Barao claimed wins over Anthony Leone and Chris Carriasso before the company was absorbed by the UFC in 2010. It was Barao's match with Brad Pickett at UFC 138 that truly launched the Baron onto a global stage. The two engaged in a wild brawl during 4 minutes of frantic action, until Barao dropped his British opponent before finishing him with a rear naked choke. Barao winning Fight of the Night honors and going a long way to easing his can crusher reputation.
That's it, it's all over! Renan Barao!
After a decision win over WEC veteran Scott Jorgensen, Barao was given a shot at the interim bantamweight title against Uriah Faber, after bantamweight champion Dominic Cruz was forced to withdraw from the bout through injury. Barao would make comfortable work of Faber over 25 minutes, but their performance did little to appease fans disappointed at such a weak fight card. The contrast of emotions when Barao was declared the winner proving symbolic of the event.
Renan Barao! Renan Barao is the interim bantamweight champion!
As Cruz's injury woes continued, Barao forced the unenviable position of having to defend his interim title, becoming the only man in UFC history to do so on 2 separate occasions, beating Michael McDonald at Fight Night London before a highlight reel knockout of Eddie Wineland at UFC 165. By 2014, Barao and Cruz were finally set to unify their belts, but after Cruz suffered yet another injury, he was stripped of his title and Barao formally promoted to Bantamweight champion. Barao would make easy work of a short-notice bout against Uriah Faber at UFC 169, a card which saw the Brazilian given higher billing than fellow champion and legend Jose Aldo. By this point, the UFC had hitched their trailer to the Barao hype train, moving him to number 3 in the pound-for-pound rankings, and with Dana White singing his praises in multiple post-fight press conferences. At 27 and entering his physical prime, Barao looked set for a long and dominant reign atop the 135 pedestal. At least that's what should have happened. At UFC 173, Barao made his second title defense against 7-1 underdog TJ Dillashaw. Dillashaw had endured an unremarkable run since appearing on The Ultimate Fighter in 2011, and was taking the fight on short notice after a late injury to Rafael Assunção. Dillashaw would give the performance of his career, confusing Barao with his footwork during the opening exchanges before a big strike at the end of the first set the tone for the rest of the fight.
Oh! Big shot trying to finish!
Dillashaw continued to bludgeon Barao for the next 20 minutes before finishing his Brazilian opponent with strikes in the 5th round. After 9 years and 32 wins, Barao's reign of dominance had crumbled.
TJ Dillashaw on the new UFC Bantamweight champion!
While Dillashaw reveled in his upset win, most of the media attention centered on Barao, with many wondering how a dominant champion in the prime of their career could lose in such one-sided fashion. In the months after the fight, Barao came clean over the severity of the loss, suggesting Dillashaw's first-round knockdown put him on autopilot and that he only came around in the dressing room after the fight. Barao would get the chance to redeem himself 4 months later, when a rematch between himself and Dillashaw was penciled as the main event of UFC 177. The day before the fight, however, Barao passed out and banged his head on the bathtub, attempting to cut his final 2 pounds of weight, with UFC doctors deeming his condition so severe that he was pulled from the card as a result.
I was dehydrating in the bathtub, I fainted, I hit my head, I was taken to the hospital. I don't remember anything that happened before or after, I just remember being waken up in the hospital already.
Many used the failed weight cut as the basis for Barao's downturn in fortune. Barao had often been known as one of the biggest weight cutters in the UFC, often dropping over 20 pounds to get down to 135. And many felt this, added with the number of fights early in his career, had begun having an impact on his health. Barao claimed his cut to bantamweight was due to a gentleman's agreement with Jose Aldo, whereby he wouldn't move up to featherweight as long as his teammate remained champion. Barao's return to action instead came against Mitch Gagnon at Fight Night Barueri. Barao would make easy work of the Canadian before winning by third-round submission, but some raised concern at the time the former champion took to finish his overmatched opponent. This didn't matter to the hometown crowd. For a brief moment in 2014, the old Renan Barao had returned.
Renan Barao is back! Huge victory here tonight for the former UFC Bantamweight champion of the world.
After several attempts to schedule the fight, Barao secured his rematch with Dillashaw in the main event of Fight Night Chicago. Most expected Barao to deliver a rejuvenated performance against the champion. Instead, the fight proved even more one-sided, as Barao was wobbled on multiple occasions before succumbing to strikes in the 4th round. It was clear Barao no longer had the pace and durability to handle 135, and with Aldo no longer champion, a move to featherweight was inevitable. Barao made his featherweight bow against Jeremy Stephens at Fight Night Vegas, giving a spirited display against his much larger opponent, before eventually succumbing to a unanimous decision. A fight of the night bonus did little to ease the disappointment of a third loss in 4 fights. Despite encouraging signs at 145, Barao announced his intention to return to bantamweight, but his plans were squandered after the California State Athletic Commission refused to sanction him at that weight class. A match with Aljamain Sterling at UFC 214 would instead take place at 140-pound catchweight, with Barao losing a one-sided bout by unanimous decision. Further struggles would follow against Brian Kelleher and UFC newcomer Andre Ewell, the latter of which saw Barao fall 7 pounds short of the bantamweight limit. By this point, questions were being raised over whether the once dominant Brazilian was worthy of being in the UFC. Barao would miss weight again for his next outing with Luke Sanders, by which point the former champion was competing on the Fight Pass portion of Fight Night Phoenix. The first round saw Barao show flashes of his old self, finding success with a kick-heavy game plan and stunning Sanders at the end of the first round, before inspired work from his opponent's corner led to a very similar result.
That's what corners are for. He's listening. Now he's walking through. Boom!
Knockout for Sanders!
That's it. It's over.
Luke Sanders by knockout!
Desperate to revive his career, Barao left his Nova União training camp to join with American Top Team. This before a return to featherweight against Douglas Silva at Fight Night Sao Paulo. Barao found little success against his much larger opponent, as Silva bludgeoned the Brazilian with powerful flurries on his way to a unanimous decision. Having started his career with 32 straight wins, Barao had now lost 8 of his past 10. And 4 weeks on from the Silva fight, Barao was formally released from his UFC contract. Barao initially signed a 3-fight deal with the upstart Tara MMA, but the COVID-19 global pandemic led to the event being cancelled. At the time of writing, Barao has yet to compete since leaving the UFC, his last win coming against Philip Nover at Fight Night Brasilia 5 years ago. Renan Barao can stake a claim as the biggest downfall in combat sports, not only for the severity of his decline, but the quick and inexplicable manner in how it unfolded. While many pointed to body mileage, others noted Barao's fall coincided with a ban on IVs, which impeded Barao's ability to replenish after his substantial weight cuts. Barao remains a cautionary tale that even the best fighters can see their dominance ended in the blink of an eye. But hey, at least he's still got Jens Pulver's smile. This is the INC. Please like, share, subscribe, and ring the bell so you never miss a video.